F the BS. Forget the belief system. Okay, we had our first interview for my podcast and it was great. Great talk with a meditation and breathwork teacher called Jez. We focused on the practical benefits of meditation, but we also went into politics, science versus spirituality, epigenetics, positive thinking, and of course COVID-19. But practical, personal and social change via meditation and the breathwork was the foundation for this first podcast, and that makes me happy. So without further ado, I introduce you to Jez and our first episode of F the BS.
It's always a good thing to do. Catch
the intro bits. Because
yes.
in explaining things to you, I'll explain things to the audience, and I'll also just clarify my own thoughts on things as well. But
Okay.
yeah, what I'd like to do is start kind of with interview questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then allow that to flow naturally towards a discussion. And I might not get to ask all the questions I initially intended, but generally what I was going to say was, generally in life, I like to go with the flow. I like to go in the direction the universe is pointing me. And obviously I will lean towards things that cause me joy and pleasure, and lean towards the things that that inspire me. But at the end of the day, I like to go with the flow. So, and I value people's freedom. So I might have this idea of which direction I want the conversation to go, and I might have this idea of which direction I want the podcast to go. But other people will come with their ideas, and if I'm too rigid, I could restrict what the conversation could be, and I could restrict what the podcast could be. Whereas if I allow
It
people
could
their freedom.
it could just be Kev's worldview, whereas the conversation between you and I, we may agree on many things, but we also may have some different views, which are going to bring up the new
Yeah,
nutrients
exactly.
for that could be a new view for both of us by the end of it. So yeah, I'm definitely up for feeling the flow and seeing which rabbit hole we
Nice,
go.
nice. Okay, well, I'm going to start with a really open question. In fact, no. First, let's start with, who are you and what do you do? What are your interests? What are your passions? And I might
Okay.
even go as far as to, if do you believe you have a path and or purpose in this lifetime?
Those are two very big and wide
Yeah.
questions. So yeah. Crikey, which run to spit down already? To begin with, I'm going to show you who I am now. I'm at someone who connects with myself and connects with other people. And the way I love to do that is through the breath. And one thing I love to do at the beginning of any conversation, especially a meaningful one where we're really going to tune in and sort of not just on an intellectual level, but on a heart level as well, is take a few breaths. With a person, we're both mammals. And when I inhale, our heart speeds up. And when I exhale, our heart slows down. And I also get really nervous as soon as I know something, the camera's there, I can feel already I'm sort of like tensing up.
Yeah, it
So
changes things, doesn't
let's
it?
let's take 3 breaths, yeah?
Okay, I'm
So if you
definitely
bring
up for
me,
that. Bear with me a sec.
you can be sat down, you could be on the ceiling, you could be anywhere.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take 3 breaths together, left hand on heart, right hand on belly, or your head, or your hips, or wherever. And we're going to take 3 inhales. And as we exhale, the heart slows down. As we inhale, our heart speed up together. And as we breathe out, we let go together. Nice one. it's a really, really lovely way to connect with people. We're mammals, and just getting our hearts in sync, whether we're singing or whether you're eating some food. It's, yeah, really, really nice to bring the energy in. So who am I? My name's Jez. I'm a yoga teacher and a breathwork coach, and I'm someone who's changed a lot. Yeah, why? A lot of that change was driven out of being in bad places. I had a long history of drug use and alcohol use. I started smoking weed when I was 11. I had very interesting mental health through my teens and early 20s, which sort of culminated in a 8-year Valium addiction and different psychotic episodes. And yeah, I wasn't in a good way at various points. So I've changed. And now my work is in accepting and helping others change, but not from a place of, a lot of my change came from a place of not being good enough or not feeling okay with the state I was in. But now my change comes from a place of actually accepting myself and changing because I enjoy to change, and changing because we don't have to change. We don't have to change from what has been, but on what can be.
Okay,
So
I'd like to reflect a little on that and give you an opportunity to elaborate a little more. You mentioned something about change and what inspired the change, and changing not because you're ashamed of who you are, or not because you're, and I think, yeah, that struck a chord with me, just because from my perspective, I feel like a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-love is a root of a lot of our personal issues, which then coalesce into our social issues. And just like on a personal level, you see the frustrations that people have with who they are and how that manifests in negative behaviors, whether it's addictions or aggression or depression. And yeah, I just personally have a lot more people talking about anxiety and depression recently. And at least in my experience, a lot of the roots of my own anxiety and depression was a lack of self-love and a lack of self-esteem. And I feel we live in a society that doesn't encourage self-esteem. In fact, advertising praise on self-esteem, and news is 99% negative. That's rare that on the news that there's anything positive. So
you make a really good point there. We're born into a collective field of fear and this sort of thing of scarcity and not feeling enough. And it's not the people around us fault. It wasn't our parents' fault. It wasn't the society's fault. This is just the patterns which have been passed down. As people have been born into these, and we've adapted to them. I can't find my flow. That's interesting.
yeah, no, that's kind of partly my fault, because you were in your flow and then I reflected. I didn't at the end of my reflection, I didn't say anything to really, I don't know, inspire you to continue. So
it's all good, man. It's like this is a learning. It's
just learning for us both. So I guess to continue in that vein, so you were telling me how you'd changed, and I was reflecting on the inspiration for change. And that's, yeah, the reason I reflect is because it's part of the inspiration for the podcast. I'd like to see social change on a grand scale. I like to see positive change on personal levels. And I think that meditation is one of the main aspects. Since lockdown, I've been doing group meditations with a bunch of people. And it's really helped me, and hopefully it's really helped a bunch of people as well. So yeah, personally, that's something I'd like to move forwards in my life. On a social level, I just like the importance and the scientific results of meditation, the physical, psychological results on personal levels and social levels to be more widely known. So I guess I'm going to ask you to expound on your journey with meditation, how you discovered meditation and how it's helped you.
Okay. So I first gave meditation a shot. I was about 18, and my friend Phoebe brought me a book, 54 Steps to Meditation. Got to about step 4, and I gave it a go. I gave it a good go. But when it really locked in for me was when I was in a really bad way in 2012.
Mm.
And I committed to daily meditation. My mental health was in a terrible state. I was sort of in the midst of a Valium addiction. I was really, really getting mashed up a lot of the time and not looking after myself. But I committed to daily meditation, 20 minutes a day. Quite often I do it when I got back from work in the evening, sit down. And then over the years, I slowly developed the self-awareness and then the self-reflexivity to become aware of my patterns and slowly start to change them. So I started to change myself. And a lot of that was driving my addictive tendencies into other things, into healthier holdings, into a bit of spiritual bypassing as well for a few years. And,
We've all been there.
oh man, like when I came back from India, my poor family and friends was, but that that was a place I needed to go to because the pendulum swung from sort of self-destruction, not feeling self-worth, trying to escape myself all the time through drugs, drink and booze. I mean, I had meaning through my friends and through music. That was great. But what was going on around that, I was in a bit of a pickle. So meditation allowed me to start to become aware of my thoughts, become aware of my patterns. And then slowly over time that developed into a movement-based yoga practice. And then the rest of yoga with the breath and all different styles of meditation as well. And I love my practice. I love my meditation practice. But saying we do meditation is kind of like saying we do exercise. It's like, yeah, I do exercise. It's okay. But what exercise are we doing? And is that exercise suitable for that person at that time? Are star jumps really suitable just before you're about to go to bed? Or is it more suitable to do something which would calm you? And the more of us who come together and start discussing mental movements and becoming aware of our thoughts and our patterns in the mind, the more we support other people in doing it. And at the moment, there's a rise in awareness of, yes, the scientific evidence to otherwise what is quite subjective. If someone's just sat there 20, 30 years ago, someone would have been like, well, what are you doing? You're not doing anything, you're just sitting there. Actually, you can do a lot. You can do an awful.
Very true.
So my path with meditation is been one of going to it out of necessity, out of being in a severe mental crisis, and then slowly becoming aware of myself, getting into a place of gripping and holding, and then over time becoming, still doing my practices with discipline, but doing discipline from a place of kindness and enthusiasm, not from a place of lack or like, oh no, I'm not feeling great, or I've got to feel like that. So my meditation practice has evolved over the years, and I love it. I really, really love it. It's changed my life. It's fully changed my life.
Do you have a particular form of meditation? Because there's Vipassana and then there's guided meditations like violet flame meditation, and yeah, there's lots of different, and some people say things like I can't meditate because they assume that they have to stop thinking or only think spiritual thoughts, and think that if their shopping list pops into their head, they're not meditating. But it can pop into, depending on which form of meditation you're doing, a shopping list can pop into your head, and you can just allow that to drift, just like you allow your whatever other thoughts pop into your head to drift, and you're still successfully meditating. In my opinion, I feel like everyone meditates whether they know it or not. Some people get home from work, sit down on the couch, meditate for 10 seconds, and then switch the TV on. It's like if they just stayed in that space of for a bit longer, they might discover something about themselves.
Introspection and be aware of our programs instead of being programmed
Quite.
by the script. Yes.
But yeah, I expounded rather than waiting for an answer. Yeah, do you have a form of meditation that you prefer or that you use?
So I originally learned through using mantra. So that's using a verbal sound and then taking that verbal sound and sub-vocalizing that. And so it's originally through TM. And the sounds I first used were Om, Hum, Om, Hum. And the way I'd like to say that was easy. So it'd either be in time with my breath, it'd either be in time with pulsations of my heart, it might be shouting it, it may have been just really quietly saying it. I enjoyed to say it in any way, and still do when I go back to this meditation, in any way which allows me to keep my focus on it. So that was the training of what we call in yoga dharana, focus. Then you have dhyana, meditation. And a lot of the meditations out there are a form of mental exercise, but a lot of them are dharana, they're developing focus. Then when you can hold focus, either laser point, single, or wide beam focus, peripheral, feeling your back, seeing the corners, seeing the trees outside, hearing, but not being focused on any one thing. And when you can sort of beam that focus down or beam it wide and then hold that focus with vivid intensity, clarity and stability, that's when you can have dhyana, which is meditation. So that's like knowing where your body is and being able to take a shape, but you're doing it mentally. And then that can lead to what's called samadhi, which translates as ecstasy or bliss. And that is when the state of consciousness, perception, blends fully with your object of meditation. Whether that is your breath, whether that is a visualization, whether that is a sound, a mantra, or an affirmation, or whether that is an external object, a flame. So there's many different types of samadhi you can experience. Yeah, all
Is
sorts
that
of
when
things.
you're the subject of your focus, when the illusion, what wiser men than me tell me, is the illusion of separation, when that disappears, when you're focused, say you're looking at the candle, it's no longer I am looking at the candle, it's candleness. You're just experiencing candleness.
It could be. It could be. It's essentially an experience of unity conscience, which are available in various different ways, whether that is through sleep state, whether that's through dream, whether that's through different meditation state, whether that's through trance, whether that's through sex, whether that's through drumming, whether that's through ayahuasca, meditation, near-death experience, you name it, it's there. And that's the experience of unity conscience. So that is one aspect of meditation, and quite a lot of people will try and go for that. And that's good, that's something to aim for, but really the gold's in the journey, the gold's in the learning your funny edges and learning those funny thought patterns and accepting ourselves so we can actually change ourselves in an authentic way. And then we, being the microbiome in the larger entities, i.e. the corporations, the institutions, the governments, the families, which then act out into the world, their feelings, needs and desires for example, ExxonMobil's need is just to feed the shareholders and
Money.
destroy the land. But we are the mind within them. Anyways, I'm rabbit holing here, so I'm going to bring it back.
No, it's fine because yeah, that segues me to the wider conversation.
Hmm.
Okay, it's good that you're the first person I speak to as far as the podcast is concerned, because yeah, that's a theme that me, some friends, and some of my better teachers have come back to often, is the idea that as much as we want to change things out there, politically and socially, the foundation is in changing ourselves. And in that, inner peace leads to world peace, or etc. And all of these institutions are made up of individuals. So if you want the government to change, you want a bunch of individuals to change. If you want a corporation to change, you want a bunch of individuals to change, etc. So yeah, the importance of meditation being a good foundation for a good mental health, and good mental health being a good foundation for well-being, and well-being being a good foundation for a happy society. Having said that, there are 7 areas of social reform that I've been musing about before we had this whole pandemic lockdown. And yeah, I'd just like to spitball throwing these ideas at you. And if
Okay.
any of these subjects are if you're passionate about any one of these, or if you have any reflection if you're inspired to reflect on any one of them in any way, just let me know, basically. So any thoughts on the following 7 subjects? There are areas of life that I'm reading this bit now. There are areas of life that I have identified that would be relatively easy to change, but could theoretically revolutionize life on Earth. Holistic and/or sustainable change for personal and social well-being. These are the main foundations for the discussion in my podcast. Electoral reform, like proportional representation. Mental health reform, like spiritual rituals and ceremonies as group therapy. Industrial reform, specifically replacing the oil industry with a hemp industry, replacing oil-based plastics with biodegradable plastics. Energy reform, that's replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy, pretty simple. This 5th is spiritual reform, which you'll probably have the most to waffle about, I reckon, or co-waffle with me. Spiritual reform, from my perspective, and this is very much a personal opinion, replacing dogma and superstition with the sciences of subtle waveforms, nature therapy, the sciences of well-being, happiness, quantum fields, epigenetics, heart math, near-death experiences, which you brought up earlier. Spiritual practices like worshipping nature makes more sense in the context that appreciating nature is good for your mental health. And then the last 2 were universal basic income and gross national happiness, which I'll expound upon in a little. But it's interesting, I wrote universal basic income before the lockdown pandemic. And at the time, it seems like that would never happen. That's like a dream. And then once everybody literally had to stop working, the government were like, well, maybe we can afford to give people a universal basic income. So now it's actually more of a possibility. Not that I think it's likely to happen anytime soon, but I think more people are willing to consider it now. And gross national happiness, I came across at a talk in, what's the area called? I forget the name of the area, but there was a talk by this guy who helped instate it in Bhutan. And it's basically where they're, rather than seeing profit as the main and only goal of a country, they actually analyze the well-being of the population and the happiness of the population, because gross national product is not actually any reflection on whether or not your population's happy. So yeah, I said a lot just then.
That's a very good distinction. It's all right. I'm holding a few points in my mind and I'm just going to make a quick couple of points, and then I'm going to see where we end up. Universal basic income, really, we need to bring that in. In 20, 30 years time, AI is going to put the large majority of workers out of a job who are currently, if people have got online and office work, AI is going to automate it. So the sooner we get that in, the better. That we can see coming. Social, yeah. I mean, we're running a linear economy in a finite world. In the words of Charles Eisenstein, who wrote Sacred Economics. If we could actually value things in place in their system, i.e., a tree has value stood in the forest. But currently, our economic systems only value things if they are cut up and monetized and then sold as a product. So our current financial system only values that tree if it's cut and made into a product. It doesn't value a whale in an ocean. It doesn't value the whole system, which then supports the other system of life. So if we could somehow, using game theory, so build game B on game A's terms, so we're not snubbed out by an immune response of the system. And this is happening at the moment. This is what's going on. If we can build the frameworks of a new economy which value people, planet, and doesn't separate the well-being of the individuals and the collective for the sake of just a few degradation and mindless consumption based out of fear, but we could actually create and regenerate for the future. And I feel we can do that, and that's got to start on an individual level. How we treat ourselves will be how we treat others, and separating spirit and matter. Matter is spirit in formation, and spirit matters, but we've lost our connection to spirit. And what information okay, so spirit is matter in formation.
Spirit, matter, information, yeah.
And our connection to spirit matters, but we live in a spiritually sick society because we separated spirit and matter. God's up there and God's not down there. And we've lost the divine feminine as well. God's now a sort of patriarchal, monotheistic sort of religion, Abrahamic religion, gone from a polytheistic, different parts of life, which accepts all of it.
Okay, yeah, that's.
And I can see that's another rabbit hole down there. And sorry to anyone who is Abrahamic religion, but that wasn't a stab. And I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole. I think there's
it's okay. We can leave controversy alone for the first one.
Used is a slightly different matter, but the underlying essence of love is there in all of them, to relink, to create union, to find unity, essentially. Religiao from Latin. Anyways, yeah, leaving hand grenade.
I wanted to I wanted to reflect on the whole slightly touch on the monotheistic the whole idea of science and spirituality being separated. Yeah, it's just amusing, a reflection basically. there's something to spirituality. Now, even if you're a complete skeptic, you may appreciate that more oxygen in the blood allows your brain to work better, allows your muscles to function better. Therefore, yoga, pranayama, breathing has a physical and physiological benefit. You may appreciate that going to the woods or going to the park has a positive psychological effect on you. Now, from one perspective, yoga is spiritual, nature worship is spiritual. From another perspective, deep abdominal breathing is practical and scientific. Sitting in nature when you've been in a bad mood is practical and scientific. And I posit the theory that everything that we consider spiritual, or I don't want to say everything, most things that we consider spiritual have a practical and scientific root. That root was just lost. And when we don't understand something, we call it magic. So if we don't understand why being in the sunshine makes us feel better, or if we don't understand why this deep breathing makes me lightheaded and makes me feel good, then we think it's cosmic, blah, blah, blah. But the purpose of science is to answer those questions. So theoretically, all the reasons for spirituality lasting as long, all the reasons why yoga and meditation and Chinese medicine, which is a whole other subject I could go into, which understands positives, negatives, and magnetism better than Western medicine still. All these things have a basis, and I posit the theory that eventually science will have scientific explanations for all these so-called woo-woo, silly ideas. The same way that some believe to be silly ideas, the same way they're proving that the placebo effect is more effective than many medicines.
Yes, we know we know the neurology behind that now, and as science catches back up to the fact that mind and matter are not actually separate, spirit and matter are not actually separate, and science starts using actual knowing, not just empirical evidence of it has to be objectively proved outside in a can't find my flow there. That's okay. But anyways, it's coming back round, and the systems which are now needed, i.e. meditation and awareness, whether through yoga or Buddhism or Qigong or any mind-body science, the science of the ancients, essentially, of exploring your own experience in relation to those of the world around you. And then we've got the modern science, which can now put the data and the observation to those subjective experience. And like, yes, you can see the pH of your blood change, you can see your heart rate variability, you can see the vasodilation effects from building up CO2, slow breathing, or you can see the vasoconstriction techniques from fast breathing, hence why you might feel different on a physical level. Or is there also an energetic body? We can see your brainwave states go down, alpha, theta, creation. And it's when we're down and alpha and theta, that's where creativity can appear. That's also where you can change. That's where the brain is flashing 3 to 7 hertz per second for theta, and 7 to 14 for alpha, and then beta's either 14 or 16, and there's a few subwaves as well, up to 32 hertz. And then you've got gamma above that, which is 32 to 100 hertz per second. That could be a psychedelic experience, or another kind of flow state. Anyways, those states can allow us to change. So being able to feel those states within ourselves, first being able to respond to the environment around us, know, okay, am I getting a bit stressed here? My heart's going up, or like I'm thinking far too much, I'm thinking of far too many things. Meditation can give us an awareness of our nervous system, same body, same breath, same nervous system for the physical, mental, emotional, and social environment. And then you can start to move scientifically through your own experience, through your own knowing.
Can you just do that hand diagram for me again, please? Go on.
Okay.
So what's where?
So it's the same body, same breath, same nervous system for the physical environment.
Yeah.
Mental environment. Emotional environment. Hey. Ooh. And the social environment, both externally and internally. This is a loose map I work on. It's quite similar to Ken Wilber's 4 quadrants: I, it, we, and it. Sorry, I, it, we, and it. But I've just applied it to the physical body and how we can use the breath and the body to notice how we are in one area and allow that to change in others. So, for example, from my own journey, through meditation, I developed awareness through my mind and my physical body through yoga, and I retrained my ability to respond to stress to the point where I could then uncover my emotions and then re-step out into the world and create new social shapes. It's the same nervous system which responds to stress. And before, in my more adventurous younger days, my teens and my mid-20s, I was a mess. My way of being in the world, like I was never an outwardly nasty person, but I was an inwardly nasty person. I was acting in my anger to myself through trying to destroy myself through alcohol and drugs most of the time. That was the way of me being in the world.
So what was the most
through I've rabbit holed a bit there, but bringing it back to the nervous system and meditation. So to calm my nervous system and my way of being and my patterns of attachment, first through meditation, then through physical yoga, and that has allowed me to gain awareness of my nervous system and then change the way I relate to other people, so I can actually relate to them from my true self, not my adaptive self, which grew up to meet the needs and expectations of my culture around me and my family and society. And we're currently running on a collective field of fear, scarcity, mistrust. And those are some bad software problems. We've disconnected ourselves from the land, disconnected ourselves from each other. And it's not our fault. And I don't think it's any one specific person's or one specific entity or institution's fault, but it's kind of spiraled down. But we are like living computers. This thing here is such advanced technology, we don't even see it as technology. And we can become aware of our software, what programs are running through our epigenetic expression, through our growth, how we've grown and adapted to the society around us. And then in a kind way, so changing out of a wish to be, not out of a lack of what I am now, we can then download new software. And those are the tools of meditation and yoga and connection with nature. Whatever that system, whatever that science, the Vedas, Ayurveda, the science of life, preserving life. And also, you could even look at yoga as a science of letting go. It's a science of death. It's a science of letting go of the tightness of a holding you have in different physical postures. And those holdings and armorings will often correspond to some emotional or social either mis-expression or suppression or unconscious repression, and then it's compressed into the tissues and tightened and becomes a dis-ease of the mind or the body. Crikey, I didn't breathe for far too long there. So yeah, that spanned across a few
that was great. That was really good. That was really good. That was really good. Okay, I'm going to start to wrap up, but before, yeah, it might be asking you to repeat yourself to a certain extent, but it might inspire just some further clarification. So, you've gone from your journey to a more balanced individual. What would you say, as far as whether it's changing your habits or changing your neurology, what would you say has been the most effective or practical part of your own journey that you could advise or gift to other people? Whether it's
the breath,
breath.
the breath, the breath, the breath.
Is that specifically to slow down the breath, or to pay attention to the breath, to focus on the breath, or to slow it down, or like specifically what about the breath?
All of the above. You've got freedom with it. Essentially, the breath can start to be your guide to how you are feeling. Same body, same breath, same nervous system for a physical stress, a mental stress, an emotional stress, or a social stress. Shit, do they like me? Oh no, I lost my lover. Or like, fuck, pay the rent. I forgot to pay the rent. Or like, oh, fucking hell, house is on fire. So all of those things will affect the nervous system, same nervous system. And the breath, going back to that diagram earlier, will be pulsing autonomically in reaction to what you're feeling in response to your environment, to what you're perceiving. So becoming aware of that, you can then either sit with that and go, what is this feeling? And really use that as a tool to journey into your body and allow yourself to feel and accept what that is. And it's when we accept something, then we can change it. Because if we try and push it down, it pops out the other way. It will go somewhere else, how energy moves. So you can then use the breath to choose to respond. Do you need to rest? Slower breathing. Breathe from a count from 4 to 6 seconds. That'll put you in a most adaptable state to either tune your nervous system up or tune your nervous system down. Sympathetic response or ventral vagal parasympathetic response. I'm going to make this distinction at the risk of a rabbit hole. And then the exhale, dorsal vagal function, heart slows down. So you can still be activated, but not be in fight or flight. So there's 2 branches to the parasympathetic nervous system. And when you can be in a safe space of activation, so your body, your mind, your muscles still have energy, but your systems are still online. You're not in like, oh shit, I've got to fight a monkey and climb a tree. You've got choice. And the breath can give you that choice. So you can rest, slow down. You can refocus. You can speed your breath up. Or you could use something like a 1-to-2 ratio to sleep at night. That could be inhale 3, exhale 6. Inhale 3, exhale 6. So each cycle of breath, you're exhaling longer, your heart slows down. 5-10 minutes later, even if you're not asleep, you're in a deep state of rest. And then you could actually use that to set yourself into a state of meditation. And that's not to confuse sedation with meditation, which some of us might do. We might go, oh, I don't have to think now. But you can put yourself into a state of clarity and focus, and then you can hold your mental focus like a laser. And that's where the real joy of meditation, that's where the freedom in the mental realm can begin. And crikey, are we ready for it? We've got amazing information. We've got amazing communication. Those are keys to the health of any system. We are physically restrained at the moment, but we are mentally unbound. And just like a body which could do all these amazing movements and have amazing nutrition, our mental bodies and our mental minds have access to amazing nutrition if we can be discerning and use that information to inform our mental states and then slowly form our new mental structures and new mental muscles. If we can put ourselves out in the bright lights of Netflix, it's great. Not all the time. If we can unprogram ourselves from the stories of fear being drummed into us, 6 o'clock news, dum, 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 we respond to drumming. We're a highly suggestible species. Dr. Tanya Lerman did some really interesting research on this. Genetically, if we weren't open to suggestion over the past 100, 200,000 years, 350,000 years, however many more, or 350 million years since we split from mushrooms, if we weren't suggestible, the ritual we were going to do would not induce the placebo effect, our own healing effect in the body. Now, placebo isn't a bad thing, but it's sort of labeled by companies as a bad thing because it means their drugs are just as good as our mind. Belief is a very powerful thing. And when we believe something, if I believe, yes, cinnamon, I love cinnamon. Cinnamon makes me feel good. Through the anterior cingulate cortex, and the dorsal part of that, through the basal ganglia and the sensory motor cortex, body up, will say yes. And through the temporal and parietal lobes, top down will say, yeah, cool. And then through the ventral part, through the limbic system, won't go into all the names, the body goes, yes, cinnamon, amazing. And release serotonin or dopamine or oxytocin if I'm with friends and connection. But if I go, fucking nutmeg, oh man, I hate nutmeg. Nutmeg makes me ill. Damn. Through the same lens, from the dorsal to the ventral part of the anterior cingulate cortex, I might release cortisol and become into a state of stress, and then my heart rate might go up. And if my heart rate is not calm, the information I am ingesting, whether that is matter information as food to form my body, or mental or emotional information to inform my mental and emotional state and connection with my friends and family. Therefore, my heartbeat being smooth, heart rate variability being one of the keys to your system, linked to your breath. You breathe calmer. You can feel how you are in response, and then you can choose, ingest information, and also give connection back. You can connect fully. And that's what the breath can bring you. That was quite a rabbit hole, and I spun in a few different directions.
That was great, though. That was great. I'm going to enjoy listening back to that.
Yeah. I'm starting to find my flow around these hypno rectangles now. I really felt it at the beginning. I was sort of like, I'm being recorded. I can't speak, and it does. Like my sense of self is very much in my body. Some people's sense of self will be very much up in their mind. Some people's sense of self will be very much in their connections and their purpose. Mine's quite a lot in my body, and there's something about technology which sort of, I don't know, it sort of shuts my body down a little bit, but I'm currently learning because there are ways, there's ways we can learn very, very quickly.
I'm glad you got us to breathe together at the beginning. Just want to reflect before treble checking I haven't failed to ask you any other questions. Rather than asking. Go on.
as well.
Pardon?
I'm, I'm looking down the rabbit holes in my mind at the moment. I'm going, crikey, there's that, and that. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's
you can go back to some of the other subjects that were on your mind if you want to.
I'll put myself on the spot now. I was going to plant the seed also for another conversation. But I think also an interesting way of creating what I think one of the aims of your podcast was to create conversations about change. So why we change, how we change, is it lasting change? Are we changing out of fear and historical data, or are we changing out of what can be, freeing our imagination? Not what is at the moment, not what has been, but what can be. And I think to create new change, I think it was Einstein said the same style of thinking that caused a problem won't solve a problem. And we've got some large problems on a collective scale at the moment. But also, we've got some amazing communication, ideas, and collective willpower if we can pull ourselves up out of a state of fear. So first, how do we notice that we're in fear? Be aware of the breath, be aware of the heart, and choose to respond. Do you need to rest? Or down. Do you need to refocus in the moment? Alternate nostril breathing. That practice has changed my life. Or do you need to recharge? There's many practices which will give you an energy boost. And then weave a microbiome within our communities and within the corporations, which are larger entities. They have a larger physical effect on the world than any one living thing. The UK government or a global business has a larger physical effect than any one living animal would. They're the real animals, and we're the microbiome within them. Just like our microbiome can change our thoughts, our drives, our needs, we can change the needs, and the departments and the families are kind of like the organs within these big entities. We just can't see them, but we see their action.
Yeah, I once had an experience where I was looking at a field of grass, and I had this realization that that field is one thing, a field of grass, but it's also thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of blades of grass. And that was both true. It is one thing, and it is lots of individuals. It's one thing made of lots of individuals.
It's the difference between spirit and soul. Spirit is the collective spirit. Soul is the individual expression of spirit. And a lot of what we currently take as normal is we're disconnected from the spirit, and our souls are in crisis. Because our souls and our actual selves, like we can feel. And if you wanted to look at it on a no soul, no spirit, Newtonian Descartesian level, if you really want to go for that, like how we feel and the technology in our body, this living thing recognizes other life, and we're disconnected from life nowadays, many of us. And that's not our fault, and that's not to put judgment, blame, or shame on us who are disconnected. Because we've just grown into this. We've been born into this. There's that shifting baseline theory of, oh yeah, nature's always like that. I mean, to fields of grass, we look across this green and pleasant land in England. We've got green deserts. There's just grass in there. Or there's just one crop. And a single crop in an ecosystem is not a strong web with lots of different nodes. We just think that's normal. It's
So
not. We're losing topsoil at 1% a year. We've got 60 years worth of harvest
that
left.
touches on so many things. It's one of the reasons why Brexit was a more complicated discussion than we wanted to have, because we can't actually grow enough food here to support ourselves. So trade is really important.
With our current models, and I'm not sure for certain that we could, but we could definitely be a lot more resilient. Land Workers Alliance are really good people to tune into with this. In fact, right now, like now is their time to shine. Small, medium scale farms, local economies, so the money's moving around the economy, not off to some bank account and some shore far away to avoid our taxes. And it's like we're in a really interesting change at the moment, because actually we haven't even spoken about COVID-19. Crikey.
No, that's yeah. I think we're going to have another conversation, because I don't want this one to be too long to maintain people's interest, and I don't want it to span too many different subjects, because we can have subheadings for, like, okay, we can have a discussion about meditation here, we can have a discussion about social change under another heading at another time, we can have a discussion. But this is one of the big first ones, it's important for me to touch on a lot of these subjects, but I also foresee you might be able to help me co-host some of the other discussions or interviews I have with other people in the future, just because a lot of your areas of interest are similar to mine, and they're similar to the themes of the podcast in general. So yeah, we can talk off air about those possibilities. But before I end this one, I just want to make sure that for the sake of our listeners, we get in a nutshell the good advice, and for your sake and as a thank you to you, if there's anything you have to promote, whether it's a business, a class, or just an idea, it would be great to give you an opportunity to use this platform to help you, and to thank you for being involved, basically. So from just to clarify, from what I got from our discussion, one of your best pieces of advice for people in general is to become familiar with their breath, and if possible to become familiar with actual techniques, different ways of using your breath. Yeah, let me know if that's correct, if you'd like to clarify more on that, and then let me know if there's anything you'd like to promote.
Be curious with your breath, and when you put yourself into a state of curiosity, that's when you can learn. So instead of judging like, oh, am I doing it wrong or am I doing it right, just be kind with yourself. And it's this endless computer game you can play. So, and one which matters as well, one which can have real affecting change in the world. Excuse me. And from there, if you'd like to learn more, you can go to my website, www.mindbodybreath.co.uk. You can also find me on Instagram at JezMindBodyBreath. I run online breathwork sessions on Monday evenings, Tuesdays 5 o'clock, Wednesdays 9 o'clock, Fridays 4 o'clock. Also, when COVID-19's over, I'm involved in trainings and retreats, and we run workshops, and I also work individually with people, and that's using conscious connected breathing and coaching to unlock the breath physically and to support you mentally in your growth and change and unlock the power tool, which is the breath. And I love my work. Check out my blog. I'm going to be putting up lots of different tools on meditation, some of the research up at Bristol Uni. Yeah, it's all going to be up there. So tune in.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jez. That's that's all really, really useful, really perfect, really perfect. Really glad that you got us to start with the breath as well. That's
Should we finish with 3 breaths?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
It might become a tradition on the podcast.
Might become a tradition, and I'm just going to say thank you to my teacher Ben for teaching me this. It brings groups together in a really amazing way. It's really good. Bless.
Gratitude. I'll speak to you very soon, brother. Bless.
Yes, speak soon. Should we continue talking now and then?
Yeah, we can continue talking now.
Yeah. So podcast over.
Yeah. Really appreciated that. I really, yeah. I think that went really well. It covered a lot of subjects that I'm passionate about, and I think like-minded souls will really enjoy that as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you for this opportunity. This has been really good to speak about stuff I love, and also tune in to another like-minded soul about getting these ideas out there. Because the more of us who can have these conversations, a lot of the perspectives I'm currently chiming are from, yes, my own personal experience, but that has been supported by the learning I've had from podcasts. So if we can chime back up, maybe we can get the murmuration to chime something different.
Yeah. It's something I nearly said during the podcast. So when Terence McKenna said something about be the media, basically, rather than consuming negative media and such, like, just be the media, replace the media. And you were talking about the information that we consume. Hopefully this will be a form of information that's nourishing and inspiring for people.
I feel it will be, man. I feel it will be, and that's a really good distinction to make from consumption to creation, and actually having that creation being a nourishing instead of consuming, or that consumption to be a disassociation from whatever it is we can't stand around us. Or, sometimes it's nice to consume it. We're not just consuming out of fear. But yeah, that'd be really good. I'd really like to take you up on the opportunity of doing more, and possibly even co-hosting some as well. Just to reflect my points, I made a couple of notes before I wrote down. I didn't go into the why of change, but how of change, sustainability of change, and yes, the actual sort of intention, ingestion, then integration with change. I did cover the entities and the collective and the sort of microbiome as above, so below. And yeah, I reckon we could do some more and sort of like pin it around some certain, because I spun off on a few rabbit holes as well.
Well, I've got a list of specific questions which I'd forgotten I'd written, which I'm going to send you. It's like a template for questions I'd ask any or every interviewee, regardless of what their subject is, which has that list of 7 things that I'm into. But yeah, it's also just got some questions to prod them about their own passions. So I'll send that to you, and then that'll give you time to reflect, and you can let me know if there's anything on there in particular that you'd like to elaborate on more. And yeah, well, I'll let you know who else I'm going to interview and see if there's either a way that we can make it a 3-way if you really want to talk to them Zoom, or if it's hopefully a discussion after lockdown, you and I could maybe be in the same room.
3 ways for a screen would be tricky, just because you miss the sort of social cues which make that interaction flow smoother. Even Zooming, I think Zooming's good, but it's still missing a few spectrums of the communication of an in-person conversation. We could even possibly do a social distance recording, or would that?
That's not a bad idea. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I think I think I'm more worried about the well, I'm actually I was gonna just be like fully honest about my issues. I'm more worried about the how socially unacceptable it is to hang out with people than I am worried about the germs. Like, I'm more worried about like people pointing at me and saying, "You're a grandmother killer." You're 1.5 meters away from him instead of 2 meters away from him. So,
yeah, it's a good point. I think we have to respect people, and
regardless of what you think, as far as the quote unquote conspiracy is concerned, I feel it's just important to also be empathetic. So if somebody fully believes that their life is in danger because of it, then like it's not it's a form of violence for me to give them reason to be scared, basically, I feel. So like, yeah, if I'm
that's really well observed, man. I'm going to salute you there. And sometimes also with people's respect of COVID-19 and what's going on now, and respecting their reality. And also the same can apply to some of the ideas which I know both you and I agree and resonate on quite a few levels. It's like, how do we actually put them across in a way where they're not too bright, or we're saying that the other person is wrong, or making them feel inferior? Because it's not to say that things aren't different and there aren't levels of growth, a sort of growth hierarchy, but like, instead of like coming across with like, oh yeah, we all need to be da 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 da, and like loving someone who hasn't ever opened up their heart or has had it shut down for various reasons, that's gonna be fucking scary, man.
And I'll reflect and salute you as well on understanding that people's hearts are often closed for a reason. People have got trauma, and sometimes we have to have empathy for the trauma rather than judge the behavior. I have continued recording, and I think I'm going to keep all this in, but I'm just letting you know. But because we touched on that subject, I'm just going to clarify. And you don't have to comment on this. I'm just going to clarify, as far as the COVID conspiracies are concerned, I do believe there is a virus. I'm not denying that, and I also fully understand why some people don't, and I fully understand why we have lots of reason, in my humble opinion, to distrust government and or corporations. And to clarify even more, but I don't want to go too much into this subject, I do think that the death rates and infection rates are being hyped up based on the information that I've managed to garner. I do think that fascism is making the most of a bad situation, but I don't believe that the situation's just all BS. I think there is some truth to what's going on. That's my humble opinion based on what information I have at this point, and it may change.
Agreed. It's about being open to the fact that there's so many conflicting sets of information, sets of opinions and realities out there.
Yeah. And there are experts on both sides. I've heard scientists say it's definitely man-made. I've heard scientists say it's definitely not man-made. I've heard scientists say, it's like, so yeah, there are definitely, for every conspiracy, experts on both sides. Go on.
It depends. It depends. And how we react to it is going to create it as much as something, trying to say too many things at once. Word. So, how we respond to it is as important as whether or not it was man-made or it wasn't man-made. And often these things are often these things are multifactorial as well. So like, we try and look at it through the reductionist lens of science and say like, it's this thing, it's this bit, that's the molecule, that's the thing. It's like, no, it's like, which bit is jez? Is jez the eye? Is jez the heart? Is jez the nose? No, I'm somewhere in all parts of this body, but I'm no one cell in the body. So it's like looking at a problem or looking at a challenge and saying, that's the thing. We like getting a thing because we can point at a thing, and that's the thing. And now we know what the thing is.
Yeah, but
That
just
thing
to further
I hated.
complicate things, is Jez the nose, the finger, or is Jez also the sun, moon, and stars?
Like we have all, like, we're all from the sun. We're all the earth we eat. We are all the air we breathe. We are all the water we drink. And the heat, the fire is our emotions, turning our thoughts and emotions into kinetic energy and transforming that food, which was the earth, into our body. So it's like, where actually am I in this? And that's that's what be like. Okay, is my sense of self in my Facebook profile? Is my sense of self in my car as I'm driving it and reversing it? Is my sense of self in my family? Is my sense of self in my knife and fork as I'm picking up my food? Or is it in the music I'm listening to? Or is it completely lost in my mind? Or is it in my body? And like, we live in a mind heavy culture where, like, we've adapted to just our thinking mind and just thinking and mistaking that for knowing. So we mistake thinking for knowing, sort of knowing being information based on a full spinal lens and a full clear mind. Oh, I'm going to save that rabbit hole for another time.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We're gonna. I'm gonna put a. I'm gonna put a kibosh on it. Yeah, no, really,
Yes.
really, really, really appreciate this, Jez, and I hope it's the first of many, and I hope lockdown's treating you well, and I hope lockdown's treating your mental health okay, and
I'm making the most of it. I'm making
yeah,
the most of it. It's
similar.
ups and downs, but in the big picture, I'm glad I've got water. I'm glad I've got electricity. Glad I've got friends and communication, and let's see what we can create. So thank you again for this opportunity, Kev, and
Awesome, awesome.
I look forward to speaking to you soon, dude.
Speak to you soon,
Bless, brother.
bro. Bless.